Last week, I went over why Citrus is the pinnacle of Yuri anime. There hasn't been a show as bold and daring as it since it aired in 2017, but that doesn't mean it was without its flaws. As with any series, Citrus has its critics. I'm not one of them, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not here to nag on them or the anime. This will be a shorter video than last week's simply because what the anime did adapt from the manga was pretty spot on, the first 16 chapters. However, like I said, Citrus did fall a little short of its true potential with a limited 12-episode run, only just barely scratching the surface of its manga source material. It kinda sucks considering the animation quality of the Citrus anime, but it's never too late for a season 2. Just look at Tiger and Bunny and Classroom of the Elite, or even The Devil's a Part-Timer. Now, before I get too much further today, I want to thank you all for the awesome support on last week's Citrus video. It has outperformed nearly every other video on my channel since I uploaded it so far. Right now, YouTube can only be a hobby, but I've always wanted to make it a career, regardless of content. But I can't achieve that dream without your help. Sharing my videos around and hitting that red subscribe button are the best ways to support me and my content. Alright, without further ado, on to the rest of the video. The Citrus anime fell short of its true glory, and that's because it only offered a 12-episode run. The manga continued years after the anime ended and kept that fiery passion between Yuzu and Mei alive. In fact, the story continues on in Citrus Plus, which continues on from the base manga, Citrus. An anime can only do so much justice to a manga light novel series without having multiple seasons or one long run, such as Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online. Citrus falls into that same trap where it has amazing animation and a good story, but gets cut off at the end without word on a potential next season or any sort of anime adaptation continuation, for that matter. The anime has a clear fan base, as does the Shoujo ai genre, but the anime ends before we know what really happens between Yuzu and Mei. We also have side characters, such as Matsuri and the Tachibana sisters. Each of these different characters help develop the personalities and overall character dynamics of Yuzu and Mei. Yuzu's ultimate mission being to help heal the pain in Mei's heart. But with any love story, that's no easy task, and that's what the manga seeks to tackle, the continuation of their story. Citrus is something many anime have tried to compete with over the years, most recently Adachi to Shimamura, but just don't quite reach the pedestal Citrus sits upon. The story is good and the animation really helps to flesh that out, but there is no definitive end to the anime, which creates a problem if Citrus is to hold on to its throne. Aside from the manga, Citrus can only adapt so much from its source material in a single 24-minute episode, which means some manga content gets cut in order to bring the anime to somewhat of an end, not definitive, just somewhat. One episode generally tries to adapt one chapter, and you'd be surprised just how long one chapter can be, in terms of animating it. However, the Citrus anime did a pretty good job covering each respective manga chapter in accordance with anime episode number. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty close. The art style of the anime is actually very similar to that of the manga, which did make for an excellent early story adaptation as well. But again, we have no idea where Yuzu and Mei's relationship is headed. Mei is supposedly engaged to one of the male teachers at her school, but yet she clearly holds feelings for Yuzu. The anime unfortunately doesn't go far enough in explaining that conflict and building the world around the two, what people are watching the anime for. We know how hard Mei has worked for her father and the school, and we see this multiple times throughout the anime and manga, which is part of that overarching conflict, but most notable in Chapter 8 and Episode 6. Equally as curious, though, is Matsuri, who I briefly touched on earlier. In Episode 8, there is a sort of confrontation between Matsuri and Mei, Matsuri of whom has always been clingy, according to Yuzu. However, this encounter evolves into something a lot more complex that the anime just doesn't get to in 12 episodes. When she interrogates Mei about Yuzu always wanting a boyfriend, but is now suddenly into girls, well, you can see for yourself just how much that deepens the overall story.
言いたいことはそれだけかしら。はい。
We kind of semi-understand Yuzu's feelings, but Mei grows into an increasingly complex character as is seen with Matsuri in episode 8 especially. Yet, there's also her feelings towards Yuzu and the large-scale absentee period of her father to take into account. This leaves anime onlys with one big nagging question. How exactly does Mei feel? Is she interested in Yuzu, or is she just trying to make herself feel better? To make matters worse, episode 12 ends with a kiss on the bridge. While that can kind of be defined as a conclusion to the story, the fact of the matter is there's way more that could be adapted, and my sources tell me things get pretty wild in the manga. Finally, the manga provides more background into the characters' personalities. For instance, did you know that Yuzu's hair is actually dyed? She dyed it when she was little after her biological father passed away. While something like that is a minor detail, it hones in on the fact that there is a lot more to these characters than the anime lets on. And get this, Yuzu has her own fan club. All of this is just from chapter 17 of the manga, where the story picks up after the anime. I won't get any more into things than that, but I think you kind of get the gist. Citrus is a beautiful story and challenges the observed, accepted notion of love and loving. There is a lot to praise about the anime, but it also has its flaws. For a story such as this, it's almost impossible to adapt all of the source material, or enough of it for a good beginning, middle, and end, into an anime. One that doesn't have at least 2 seasons. I still stand by my comments in last week's video about Citrus being the pinnacle of Yuri anime, because, well, it is. There is a clear conflict that is about more than just Yuzu herself, plus the breaking down of societal norms that are really nothing more than a nuisance. If you want more on all of that, make sure to check out last week's video. With that being said, I'm going to close things out here, so if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more, and I'll catch you all later. Thanks for watching.